Welcome to the Travel Tidbits Podcast, hosted by me, Jamie Weitl, travel advisor and owner of Pineapple Escapes Travel. Join me as I share the latest travel news, top destinations, and expert tips for the savvy traveler. Because after all, travel makes life sweeter. Welcome back to the Travel Tidbits Podcast, where we share travel tips, destination inspiration, and industry insights to help you travel smarter. I'm Jamie Weitl, the owner of Pineapple Escapes Travel, and today we are talking about one of my very favorite topics, how to make the airport experience smoother, faster, and honestly just a little bit more luxurious, especially if you've ever traveled for work. Traveling and airplane flights and all of it can end up being tricky. So if you've ever wondered if TSA PreCheck is worth it, what's the difference between global entry and TSA PreCheck? Is Clear just an upsell? And how in the world do airport lounges work? This episode is for you. And trust me, I'm on a plane enough to give you plenty of insight here. Joining me today is one of our incredible agents at Pineapple Escapes Travel, Pankti Bhatia. And Pankti, I'm so excited you're here today with us.
Hi, Jamie. I'm so excited to be here as well. Thank you so much for inviting me. And you know how much I love the pre-vacation planning phase. But for me, the magic really starts when you get to the airport without the stress. As a travel advisor and as a mom, I have seen firsthand how all of these tools can really make a difference in starting your trip frazzled or relaxed. And when you're traveling with kids, give me all the hacks, all the calmness, because I need them. It changes the energy of the entire trip completely.
No, I completely agree. And traveling with my kids is a whole different ballgame than traveling for business. But traveling with your kids and being able to have access to some of these things just makes it so much smoother and so much easier. But as a business traveler, I really benefit from these as well. So let's kind of start at the beginning and work through the different types of things you can purchase to have a little bit better experience at the airport. So let's start with TSA PreCheck. I feel like that's kind of the entry level of all of these things. So Pankti, what exactly is TSA PreCheck and how can our clients utilize it?
So TSA PreCheck is a trusted travel program that allows pre-approved, low-risk travelers to go through an expedited security screening at U.S. airports. The biggest benefits is you don't have to remove your shoes. You don't have to remove your laptops, your iPads, all the things that we travel with our kids. We don't have to remove those liquid pouches, and light jackets and belts can typically also stay on as well. And that is just so convenient when you're, traveling with all the things and all the people. Even as, like you said, business traveling, I typically, will travel with my laptop, and it is just so nice to just have to get to leave it in my bag.
No, I completely agree. And I think, especially when my kids were younger, like taking out the iPads and all of the things, like it just ends up, and then you're bound to leave something behind, especially like for us, there were 5 of us and so many bins of stuff. Like when you're taking things out and taking your liquids out and all the things, plus shoes, like it just makes it so much easier and so much faster. So I think TSA PreCheck is definitely one of those things that is worth it. And for me as a business traveler as well, not having to take my laptop out, not having to worry about those things, leaving my makeup and shampoo and everything in my checked bag. Awesome. You just walk through, you're done. So I definitely think that's a positive. So let's talk a little bit about how much TSA PreCheck costs.
Okay, so the prices will, depending on when you're listening to this episode, the prices might vary a little bit. It is about $80 for a family. And if you have kids under the age of 17, they can be added to your PreCheck account as long as their reservation is also attached to your reservation as the parent. However, if you do have an older teen that is traveling alone, they will need their own number, so they may need their account. If you have any questions about that, please don't hesitate to ask us. But the cost is is about $80 and it's valid for 5 years. Like, I can't even think about the biggest ROI for travel. I mean, $80 for 5 years, that's amazing for me.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I mean, it's like the cost of one airport sandwich. Like, this is 100% worth it. If you travel even only once a year, that $16 is worth it, 100%. So if you are going to sign up for TSA PreCheck, you can do that at tsa.gov/precheck. And there's an application online, and then you have to go through an in-person appointment where you have fingerprinting, a background check, and then you receive what's known as a known traveler number. And then you will give that to your travel agent, and we will put that on file so that every time we book flights for you, we can add that to your airline reservation, and then it shows up on your boarding pass, TSA PreCheck with a little check, and you get to go through that TSA PreCheck line when you go through security. Approval is usually relatively quick, usually within a few weeks, but it is definitely worthwhile and worth the investment. One other thing to kind of think about is we're going to talk more about credit cards and the benefits that they have, especially with lounge access, but many of the major travel credit cards do reimburse the application fee for TSA PreCheck. I know, for example, that Amex Platinum does reimburse this. It also reimburses Clear and Global Entry. So that is something to think about if you are looking for a travel credit card. You might not even have to pay out of pocket for this benefit. Pankti, do you have a specific travel credit card that you are using or that you utilize for things like this?
Yeah, so we also do have the Amex Platinum, and they recently did increase their fees, but they have included a lot of perks as well, where when you're getting any sort of travel premium credit card, there's going to be a fee. But really do look at those perks because almost all of the premium travel credit cards includes Global Entry, TSA PreCheck, and Clear. So which pretty much makes this whole program free. And then they also include a lot of other perks that are not very difficult to get, which pretty much negates the credit card fee. So definitely look into it. And we can also help if you are trying to, figure out which card would be best for you. But as a family, back to your question, as a family, we do use Amex Platinum and also the Capital One Venture X. I feel like those two really helped us with traveling from the Houston or Austin area. They give us the most amount of benefits for our home airports.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that that's, like, I have like a little spreadsheet for my Amex Platinum, so I make sure that I get all of my fee back because that's one thing, like, I don't want to waste any of that fee. So I do like break that down for myself, but it is totally worth it, especially if you travel frequently, to have one of those travel credit cards. My family uses the Amex Platinum mostly. We also have a Southwest card for the companion pass. That could be a whole other episode in and of itself. And then we also have an American Airlines card. So typically, I mean, I try to be loyal to the airlines, but sometimes I end up on other ones. It just depends on where I'm going and what the quickest option is. But those are the three main cards that we utilize. So I think that does make a difference overall in all these things. So let's jump ahead to Global Entry. So TSA PreCheck is perfect for domestic, but if you are going to be leaving the country and traveling internationally, you might as well level up and do Global Entry. It's not that much more, and it's worth it. So Pankti, let's talk a little bit about the differences between TSA PreCheck and Global Entry.
Okay. If we back up a little bit, so TSA PreCheck is an ease of getting to your gate, going through security and getting to your gate. Global Entry is kind of backwards, where you're at the airport and you want to get back home. And it works very, very similarly, but basically that is the difference in the big higher zoom out view of the difference of the two. Global Entry, if you sign up for Global Entry, it actually also includes a lot of the TSA PreCheck benefits. So if you are traveling internationally, or even if you have just 1 or 2 international trips per year, it actually, in and itself pays for itself. So It's a faster re-entry into the US. There is no customs paperwork, and there's dedicated global entry lanes. So I think this may differ between airports, but you just kind of go up to this kiosk, they take a picture of you, and that's kind of done. Like, that's it. It's very quick and easy, and it saves us a lot of time at the airport.
Yes, I think this is really important, especially on those connections. When you have a tight connection in Charlotte or Miami, I've been there, this can get you through customs much faster because you literally just go to the kiosk, they scan your face, and then they call you through. It's so much faster. And I know at ORD at O'Hare, when I'm flying home, sometimes that custom line can be backed up for miles, depending on how many planes have gotten in at the same time. So it is really, really nice to be able to skip that line and go ahead and get out to baggage claim and get home quicker. But for connections or for getting home, it is worth it. Let's talk a little bit about the cost and what your thoughts are there.
Yeah, so the cost it's $100 and it's valid for 5 years, which is just about $15 to $20 more than TSA PreCheck, and it's valid for, 5 years. Absolutely worth it. And like I said, you don't even have to be extremely frequent travelers to be able to utilize this benefit. It'll save you a lot of time and hassle.
Yeah, I completely agree. And one thing to note, though, with this one is your kids have to have their own. So unlike TSA PreCheck, where you could have your kids on your same PNR, your same reservation number, your children have to have their own global entry number for this to work. So personally, my kids have had it since they were about 5, and it has been worth every penny for every trip we have taken. So how do you sign up for this one? Well, there is a trusted traveler program website. It is ttp.dhs.gov, and you'll pay the fee, and then you wait for your first approval, and then you have to go for an in-person interview. You can either make an appointment, usually at an airport, for these interviews, or if you're coming back in from a trip, you can do your interview on your way back in from an international trip as well. A lot of people do wait and do it on their way back in just to save themselves time and not to make another trip to an airport. So let's talk a little bit about who should get which one. What are your thoughts here?
If you have even one international trip a year, I wholeheartedly believe that global entry just makes the most sense. And it also includes the TSA PreCheck. So I think for me, that's where I would recommend. If you're not going to travel internationally at all, and remember, Mexico is also international, so don't discount that. But if you don't feel like you're going to travel internationally, then TSA PreCheck is a great option as well. The price difference between the two isn't much. So I would urge families to think about, not just what you have travel up in this next year, but what you think travel will look like for your family in the next 5 years, and make a decision based on that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And for my family, global entry has been worth it. I mean, we don't travel internationally every year, though we're probably pretty close, but at least multiple times within that 5 years. But even if it's only once within that 5 years, I think it's worth that extra $15 to $20 to go ahead and get the global entry. So let's go ahead and move on to Clear. So I think adding Clear on top of these other programs has a lot of people confused. And I think when you get to the airport and you see all these lines, and if you're not a frequent traveler, it can be really confusing. So Pankti, tell us a little bit about Clear and what it does.
All right. So here's where it gets a lot of fun. And Clear is basically, in a nutshell, like if you travel to Disney enough, this is the fast pass.
I like
this
that.
lets you skip the line, go to the front, and it is absolutely awesome. So you will have to check with your home airport, though, because I do believe it's not at all the airports. So it may not make sense for you, but it's basically a fast pass. You skip the line, you go ahead of the line. However, if you don't have TSA PreCheck, you can get to the front, but then you still have to take off all your shoes, your laptop, and everything like that. So this is where we kind of recommend, if your home airport offers Clear, that it might be worthwhile to look into getting both, because Clear is the line jumper, TSA PreCheck is the back simplifier, and you can just breeze through security with both of those.
Yeah, I completely agree. So one thing to note with this one is it is a yearly fee. So you're paying every year for Clear. You can add family members for a reduced cost. And then your kids are included, minors are included. So my son just turned 18, so I had to get him his own Clear account. But he is still linked under our family because you can have so many at a reduced cost for your family. So it is a little bit different in how that works, but it is definitely worth it for me. So I typically fly out of Midway or O'Hare, sometimes some of the smaller airports too around me. But for Midway, which tends to be my most frequent airport that I utilize, I can literally be dropped off at the front, walk through the Clear line, walk through the TSA PreCheck line, and be on the other side of security from drop off to the other side of security in 5 minutes. And it's amazing.
Same experience here. My home airport is Austin, and completely same story here. I am dropped off at the door of the airport, and I'm at the other end of security in less than 5 minutes as well. Like, I literally text my family, like, okay, I'm in the airport, out of security. I have I guess, so to speak, it is actually very, very quick, and it's so easy.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's worth it for a family too, just to avoid that hassle. Like, it hasn't been as bad. I mean, maybe just because I'm spoiled by these things that I purchased to utilize, but I feel like typically lines through security aren't as bad as they used to be. But part of that, I think, is just because I'm spoiled and I pay for these things to help make it easier. But Clear, the base cost for one person is $189 a year. And again, a lot of those travel cards do cover that cost. If you're wanting to enroll in Clear, you go to clearme.com and you can enroll online, and then you will finish at a kiosk at the airport. And they usually have those kiosks a little bit before you would go through the regular line, so you can kind of finish your first login and all of that. They'll scan your eyes, scan your fingers, so you have those biometrics to use, and that's it. One thing too, a lot of us that already have Clear, we get these 3-month free trials. So if that's something you're interested in, reach out and ask, because often I have those free trials that I can give you to try. Any other thoughts on Clear, Pankti?
It is definitely a lifesaver for me. Like you, we've had it now for a few years that I can't imagine traveling without Clear and PreCheck together. If your home airport doesn't have Clear, I would recommend at least getting the PreCheck. I think it's basically a game changer, especially with traveling with kids and being able to not be so frazzled by the end of security.
No, I completely agree. And so I mentioned at Midway, I can be through in about 5 minutes. Well, that also drops me about a 2-minute walk from the lounge. So let's jump into what I think is really the fun part, is after you're through security and you're good to go, now you're at the airport and you've got time to kill. So one of the other big benefits of a lot of these airline credit cards are the airport lounges. And I think this matters for a lot of different reasons, but really it just makes it a little bit easier, a little bit calmer, a little bit more peaceful as you go through the airport. So let's talk a little bit about what airline lounges offer and why we like them.
Awesome. Yes, this is such a fun topic. So even with Clear and TSA PreCheck, we will still get to the airports early. These are just tools to help the process in a more smooth way, but we still need to get to the airport early. And I don't know about you, but I don't like just sitting around at the airport. That is, for me, such a pain point. So now that I do have some of these credit cards, being able to sit at a lounge has been something that I actually look forward to. So These lounges have complimentary food and drinks. It is a much more quieter atmosphere. It's not so hectic. They have Wi-Fi charging stations. And some of the international lounges also have showers and nap rooms. It is such a fun experience to be on. I know my kids, and like I said, the international ones are really, really nice as well. Like they will have these game areas or just like books or things to keep kids occupied as well. So it's just really nice to have them moving around as well. I can give my kids a snack. I can get a snack for myself. I can get like nice premium coffee without paying, $9 or $10 at a vendor at the airport, and actually get a really good meal. I'm a vegetarian, so I want something healthy, and these lounges have the best combination of they're very accommodating to all dietary preferences, not just vegetarians, but I feel like they also really do a good job of having a good variety of healthy food offerings. It really makes getting to the airport, getting there early, much more of an enjoyable experience, as well as the connections between airports. I don't know. I can't imagine not having lounge access either.
Yeah, it's one of those things that once you do it, you can't go back. Like, it's definitely a perk. And so there are some lounges that you get based on your seat class. So if you are booking business class or first class for an international flight, there are special lounges for those. But if you are just in an airport, there's something called Priority Pass that most of those major credit cards that we've already talked about have, and it is included with your annual fee for that credit card, and then you can get into these lounges. And there are some lounges that are better than others. It depends on your airport. And that's something to think about when you're deciding which credit card you want is what's available at your home airport. What kind of lounge do they have? Some of my favorite places to stop, the lounge in Venice had amazing seating, great food. They had like a outdoor gazebo garden area you could sit in. It was fabulous. A lot of the international lounges are really top tier. Domestically, I personally really like Miami's lounge. Their Amex lounge is very nice. They used to offer massages and nails, but they stopped doing that about a year ago, and I was very sad. But still, the food is really good. The drinks are really good. So that's one I always like. And then the Amex Lounge in Seattle, they have a full Starbucks. It's included. So you can have any of your favorite Starbucks drinks right there in the lounge because Seattle's home to the original Starbucks. So that's a neat one too. But all of the airports have different lounges. It's fun just to check them out and to learn more about them. Pankti, do you have a special one that you like or any good ones that you've been through?
Like you, the Amex Lounge, the Centurion Lounge, those are wonderful. We don't have it in our Austin airport, but there is one at the Houston airport, which we do fly out of pretty frequently. And they're just really nice. And I don't know if they have a massage or nail service. I'm going to have to look into those, but it's just the atmosphere has been really nice. The food offerings have been really nice. It is very, I think, a Zen atmosphere. They've created a lot of green spaces within the lounge. So I really, really enjoy going there. And like you said, the international ones are just top notch. They really do really know how to encompass family travelers. And I just love like the different areas that they have built for families, for solo travelers, what have you.
Yeah, it just makes it so much more comfortable. Whether if you're with your family, it's a lot more comfortable just in terms of seating and space and peacefulness. But as a business traveler too, I feel like I can actually get work done. And that's a big thing. Like having that space to actually make that time worthwhile and to get something done is well worth it. So let's talk a little bit about Priority Pass. So like we've already said, Amex Platinum, the Capital One Venture X, and also the Chase Sapphire Reserve are all some of the major credit cards that offer this Priority Pass. with the Priority Pass, this is a membership program. So once you get your card, then you sign up for your Priority Pass account, and then you can upload your card number or your barcode directly into your Apple Wallet if you have an iPhone. And then you just scan it when you get there to the different lounge. You scan your Priority Pass and then scan your boarding pass, and they let you in. There are different membership tiers within the Priority Pass, and it is something you can purchase separately if you don't have a travel credit card. But personally, I have found that the Priority Pass gets me where I need to go. What are your thoughts there, Pankti?
Yeah, Priority Pass is also, it's nice because, so the Priority Pass lounges, I don't feel like are always the biggest. Like, especially if you compare it to Amex Centurion Lounge, but they do have a lot of great options. I think it's a nice, like, encompassing feel. So it's kind of like your base model of like, I need to get some food, I need to get some relaxation, I need to get some quiet time. It encompasses all of that.
Right. So it's not that same standard as like an Amex Lounge or even like the American Airlines Admirals Lounge or Flagship Lounge. Most of the major airlines do have their own lounge, and their credit card works for that. So like we have an American Airlines credit card. So we also get Admirals Club access. So when I'm in someplace like Miami, I have to decide, okay, I'm flying American. Do I want to go to the Admirals Club or do I want to go to the Amex Lounge? So it's kind of deciding those things. But if I'm flying out of ORD, the American Airlines Lounge there is very nice. So that's worth it for me to have that option available to me if I'm flying American. So it really kind of depends what cards you have, how you're going to utilize this. But all of the major airlines, United, American, all of them have their own lounge type. The big airlines, not like your little budget airlines. You're not going to find a Spirit lounge. I love you all, but no. Or Frontier, none of that. They're not going to have a lounge for you. But the major big airlines, Delta, United, American, are all going to have these options, and their credit card provides access to those lounges as well as your seat class. If you're in first or business class, you usually get access to those lounges. Okay, so the big question, is it worth it? Pankti, I think we already answered this, but...
Yeah. For me and our family, it is absolutely worth it. And like I said, there are so many perks that you get with some of these credit cards that the fee basically pays for itself. And it makes our whole travel experience go so much smoother and so much better. Like, I hate getting on a trip or starting a trip where I'm frazzled and I'm stressed for things that are a bit more logistical in nature, and having to sit down at a calm place with great food that is already included in my cost of travel, basically, is just a really nice start. Having a place to sit when I have a long connection has made us be a little bit more, kind of missing the word.
Willing.
Yeah. We can play around with those flights, especially because we know that, okay, yeah, we have a 6-hour or 7-hour connection, but we can just sit in a lounge. We don't have to worry about entertaining the kids. We like all that stress that typically goes into making those travel decisions are all not an issue anymore.
Yeah, I completely agree. So if you're traveling more than 1 or 2 times a year, I think honestly, all of these things are worth it. Like having global entry, having clear, having a credit card that one covers those fees and then allows you into these lounges. It is well worth the investment and the time to kind of take to figure it out, because here's the biggest takeaway, I think. If you want less stress, shorter lines, smoother airport experience, all of these things are what help make that happen. It makes it just easier for you. And I think most of us like comfort. We want it to be smooth and easy if possible. So this is definitely the way to do that. So global entry if you're traveling internationally, TSA PreCheck if you don't plan to travel internationally in the next 5 years, add clear if you're flying more than a few times a year, and then that premium travel card. So, Pankti, thank you so much for breaking all of this down with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I love helping families travel smarter, not harder.
Yes, I agree. And if you have questions about which option makes the most sense for your travel style, remember you can reach out to any of our Pineapple Escapes travel agents. We would love to help you travel smarter. And as always, remember, travel makes life sweeter. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Travel Tidbits Podcast, where we believe travel makes life sweeter. The team at Pineapple Escapes Travel would love to help you plan a trip filled with lasting memories. Visit us online at www.pineappleescapes.com to start planning your next adventure.